4.5 million subscribers, bro. 4.5 million. That's where Spirit Hunters is at, Kenji Haruto said as he laid on his motel bed scrolling through YouTube. And we're at a measly 46,000. We are the definition of small time. You know, Kenji, we just started Dark Realm just 9 months ago. 46,000 is not bad at all, Monica reasoned. She had known Kenji since their freshman year at Vanderbilt, though they didn't start dating until after graduation. That's also when she, Kenji, and their friends Marco and Vivek turned a fascination with the paranormal into a YouTube channel as paranormal investigators, albeit an already saturated niche. She's right, Ken, said Vivek. Plus, our investigation of the Lizzie Borden house got the most views out of any ghost hunting channel this year. Don't forget about that. I know, guys, I know, Kenji conceded. I'm tripping, I know. I just never realized how hard the YouTube game is. Hey, but you know what, Ken? This next investigation is going to be epic, Marco beamed. They had all flown to Japan to do an investigation on the legendary Aokigahara Forest, also known as the Suicide Forest, where tens of thousands of people throughout the decades had gone to commit suicide. Located at the base of Mount Fuji, it was also one of the most beautiful and most mysterious places on Earth. Kenji himself had a dark link to the forest. His auntie Hanako disappeared there when she was 19, though her body was never found, and to this day, she remained a missing person. Does your dad talk much about your auntie? Vivek asked. It's crazy that you have a connection to this place. I know, right? Kenji replied. My dad doesn't say much. He was really young when she disappeared. I'm sure it was crazy traumatic for him. All that I know is that they were close. He never went looking for her? Vivek asked. I mean when he was older. Not that I know of, Kenji responded. He moved to the US for college, and he hasn't been back to Japan for 30 years. Yo, if we see her out there, I'm gonna fucking freak, dude, Marco quivered. Marco, shut up. Have some respect, Monica chided him. Ken, look at this. Monica pointed to the television set in the motel room, which had the local news on. Turn it up, Marco said. I mean, not that it matters. None of us can understand Japanese anyway. That woman talking right now is saying that her daughter went to Osaka University, Kenji said, gathering bits and pieces of her words. God, my Japanese sucks. I think she's saying that she was last seen with her boyfriend over a week ago, and they left suicide notes. Anyway, that's the forest that she's standing in front of. These stories must be so common in this area, Monica lamented. There's a lot of pressure on Japanese college kids, Vivek added. They have the highest student suicide rate in the world. Man, I just cannot imagine offing myself, Marco sneered. Too much to do, you know. Bro, I will say that you love yourself more than anyone I've ever met, Kenji laughed. Must be the Italian in you. Guess who has the lowest youth suicide rate in the world? Vivek chuckled. You guessed it, Italy. I rest my case, fellas, Marco grinned. As the three boys joked and bantered amongst themselves, Monica held her head in her hands and closed her eyes. Monica, what's wrong? Kenji asked, concerned. This room, this motel. I'm just feeling a lot of energy here, Monica explained. The first time that Monica knew she was special was when she was 5 years old. She had been asleep in her room when her grandmother came in and woke her up in the middle of the night. She had a sad but peaceful look on her face, and she told Monica goodbye. Monica kept saying repeatedly that she did not want her grandmother to leave, but her grandmother assured her that they would see each other again. It was such a vivid memory for her. She could still see her grandmother's face, feel the warmth of her hug, and smell her perfume in the air. The next morning when she woke up, her mother was crying in the kitchen. She had just gotten the news that Monica's grandmother had died in her sleep in the night, nearly 2,000 miles away in Oregon. Speaking of this room, that's got to be the fifth roach I've seen, Marco cringed, pointing to the far corner of the room. "Dude, give me more money and I'll book a better room," Kenji quipped. "Besides, this is the closest motel to the forest, and it's the only one with actual beds. Would you rather sleep on the floor Japanese style?" They looked over at Monica, who had a tear stream down her face. "There's so much heaviness here, so much sadness," Monica whimpered. "I feel like a lot of people who died in that forest stayed here at this inn on their final night." "That would make sense," Vivek said solemnly. "We're literally a stone's throw from the forest." "The Suicide Inn," Marco joked. "What are you sensing?" Kenji asked Monica. "I'm just hearing a lot of jumbled voices. It's weird," Monica explained. "I'm kind of creeped out." Kenji wrapped his arms around Monica and gave her a big hug. "It's gonna be okay. It's getting late anyway, and we've got a long-ass day tomorrow. We should try to get some sleep," Kenji suggested. Kenji and Monica were sharing the full-sized bed, while Vivek and Marco did rock, paper, scissors for the pull-out twin bed and the couch. "Hey, no boning in here," Marco said, looking over at Kenji and Monica. "Have some respect for the single guys." They cracked up laughing and threw pillows in Marco's direction. He could be obnoxious, but his levity was often appreciated in the increasingly tense situations that the four of them were getting themselves into with each investigation. Exhausted from the 13-hour flight, they were all asleep as soon as their heads hit the pillow. A few hours later, Monica woke up in a sweat, and she could see from the old-school alarm clock radio on the nightstand that it was 3:35 a.m. She moved her hand around her body, and she could feel that she had completely soaked through the top of her mattress. She was also breathing heavily, although she didn't remember having a nightmare. Monica took a moment and stared into the darkness above her. The feeling of sadness and dread that had overcome her before had returned and felt even heavier than before. The air was thick with desolation. Monica tried to get up to go to the bathroom so she could clean herself up, but she couldn't move. Her arms seemed frozen, and she suddenly felt a deep and heavy weight on top of her chest and neck to where she couldn't breathe. She tried to move her legs, but they too were frozen, as if they were glued to the mattress. She tried to lift her head, but she felt completely cemented to the bed. She opened her mouth to cry out to Kenji and the others, but it was as if her vocal cords were severed. All she could do was move her eyes back and forth, and that's when she saw it. It was hovering over her and seemed to grow out of the blackness, illuminated by nothing but a streak of moonlight from the window. It had long, straight black hair and was faceless, except for the deadest of eyes and a tiny mouth. It wore what seemed like a long, flowing white gown, and it kept repeating, "No Roy, no Roy, no Roy, no Roy." Monica opened her mouth in a full-throated scream, yet nothing came out. She was paralyzed completely from the neck down. She started to panic, moving her head frantically back and forth as the apparition moved within inches of her face. "No Roy, no Roy, no Roy, no Roy," it kept repeating. Suddenly, Monica could feel life come back to her vocal cords as she let out a blood-curdling scream that cut through the darkness like a smoldering knife. The three boys jumped out of their beds. "Holy fuck, Monica! What's wrong?" Kenji cried out. Monica just kept screaming. Vivek ran to the light switch and flicked it on, which made Monica stop screaming and sit up in her bed. "Monica!" Kenji shook his girlfriend's shoulder. "Monica!" "Huh?" she gasped, turning towards him. She was dripping with sweat, and the blood had completely drained from her face. "My God, baby, you're soaking in your sweat. You look like you've seen a ghost," Kenji exclaimed, putting his arms around her. "Maybe she did," Marco said. "That was crazy. I think I pissed myself." "Baby, you saw something." "What did you see?" Kenji prodded. "Look at me, baby. Talk to me." But Monica was catatonic, frozen in shock, as she stared clear across the room before crumbling into Kenji's arms. Baby, it's okay, Kenji consoled her. I can't, Monica whispered, slowly sobbing. I can't. You can't what, Monica? Marco interjected before Kenji put up his hand in a halting manner. I don't know what it was, Monica said. I woke up and it was floating above me. It looked like a girl who had drowned. She looked so white and bloated, and it was chanting something over and over again. What was it saying? Kenji asked, a grave and concerned look on his face. It kept saying, no Roy, no Roy, no Roy. Does that mean anything? She looked at Kenji. Oh shit. Kenji paused. I think it means cursed. I'm not positive, but I think so. Oh, come on, Ken. You know your Japanese sucks ass. Marco chuckled nervously. It probably doesn't even mean that. You got it wrong. No, that's what it means, Vivek confirmed, holding up his phone. Google Translator, Noroi means cursed, not good, guys. You sure it wasn't just a nightmare or anything? Kenji asked. Monica shook her head slowly. I have a bad feeling about this one, guys, she whimpered. Ah, shit, that is fucking freaky. Maybe we should skip this one, huh, Ken? Marco suggested. Guys, this is going to be the biggest investigation of our lives. Think about it. This is going to put us on the map. I mean, this is what we signed up for, right? Kenji tried to sound upbeat. Ken's right, guys. We can't back out now. Look where we are, Vivek agreed. We flew all the way here. We've got a great opportunity. What do you think, baby? Kenji looked at Monica. She acquiesced and nodded her head hesitantly. Something awful happened to everyone who stayed in this room, Monica said, staring off into space. Oh, come on, baby. You're just trying to scare us now, Kenji chuckled skittishly. I'm just hearing a lot of voices, Ken, like, all jumbled together, she said. What are they saying? Marco prodded. Monica, what are they saying? I can't make out most of it. It's a lot of mumbling, and a lot of it is in Japanese, she said. But there was one thing that I made out pretty clearly. Someone or something keeps saying, run. The next morning, after barely sleeping the rest of the night, the four of them gathered their gear and headed out at dawn to begin their hike into the depths of the Aokigahara Forest, which would take much of the day. Their goal was to make it all the way to the Urui River, the deepest part of the forest which cuts to the edge of Mount Fuji. By historical accounts, it is in and around this beautifully serene river, with stunning views of Mount Fuji, where most visitors chose to commit suicide. This location is where the four believed they could record the most paranormal activity. This forest ain't so bad, Marco said, as his feet crunched through small branches and dirt on the forest floor. I feel better about last night. Every haunted place looks peaceful at dawn, Vivek laughed. But it's a little strange that there are no birds chirping, and I haven't seen any animals at all. Isn't that weird? That is fucking weird, man. Monica, how are you feeling, baby? Kenji asked, as he headed up the rear of the group. I feel okay, she said. I'm ready to do this, I think. She smiled and put on a brave face, but Kenji could still see the concern in her eyes. They hiked for several more hours over thick brush, until they came upon a clearing in the woods. It looked to be a campsite with a fire that seemed to be recently put out. Looks like someone was here recently, Kenji said, kicking at the still smoldering coals of the campfire. It's past noon now. It looks like whoever was here left early this morning, Kenji added. Look, there's a tent over there, Vivek said, pulling out his camera and walking towards it. All four of them had their own personal cameras, along with EMF meters to detect a spirit's presence and a spirit box to hear a spirit's voice. Monica walked to the center of the campsite and put her hand on the ground, running her fingers through the dirt. Then she looked up towards the sky and at the surrounding trees. There's a lot of energy here, guys. We must be getting close, she said. Kenji looked at his handheld GPS.
It says the river is just that way over there,
he said, pointing over the line of trees. Holy shit, guys! Vivek shrieked from afar. Holy shit! Holy shit! He stepped away from the front of the unzipped yellow tent. The three others sprinted over to the tent. What is it, Vivek? Marco asked, making a beeline towards the tent. Marco! Don't! Vivek shrieked. As Marco pushed open the flaps of the tent and stuck his head inside, a swarm of giant black flies escaped out into the open air. Marco stumbled out of the tent, fell to his knees, and threw up into the dirt. Ah, fuck! He screamed. There's somebody decomposing in there! What? Kenji and Monica exclaimed almost in unison. Yay, he's not kidding, Vivek said, covering his nose. Male or female? Monica asked. Shit, I have no idea, Marco exclaimed, washing out his mouth with his canteen. Fucker was covered in flies, must have died a while ago. Monica walked slowly up the tent and placed her hand on it, closing her eyes. Careful, baby, Kenji said cautiously. She tilted her head up towards the sky and moved her hand slowly in a circular motion on the polyester flaps of the tent. We've got to cut the tent open, Monica blurted out. What? Why? Marco exclaimed. I'm not doing that. Baby, what are you sensing? Kenji asked. I think it's the girl on TV who was missing, whose mom was looking for her, she said solemnly. We've got to cut the tent open now. I've got a knife in my backpack, Vivek said. Me too, Kenji added, as they both put down their cameras and got their knives. Vivek started on one side of the tent and Kenji on the other until the top of the tent was completely cut off. The air was thick with flies. Then the four of them pulled away the rest of the tent and unveiled the ghastly scene. It was indeed a young female, alone on top of her sleeping bag. She was partially naked and had gone through several stages of decomposition already. Oh God, the smell, Kenji said, turning his body and walking away to reset himself. Jesus fucking Christ, Marco added. I haven't smelled anything that bad since we had a dead rat stuck in our chimney. Bro, you're so stupid sometimes, Vivek admonished him. Marco threw up his hands. Monica covered her mouth with a scarf and bent down to look at the body, holding her hand above it, feeling her energy. The girl's eyes and mouth were still open, and she seemed to have some bruising around her neck. Next to her body was another sleeping bag and some clothes that clearly belonged to a male. She was with her boyfriend, and then something really awful happened, Monica said, tears falling from her face into the scarf that covered her nose and mouth. I can feel her trying to fight. She wanted to live. So where's her boyfriend? Vivek asked. If he hurt her, he could still be out there somewhere and be dangerous. I don't think that's going to be a problem, Monica interjected. What are you saying, Monica? Is he dead? Kenji asked. Suddenly they turned around as they heard footsteps and then leaves rustling behind them. What the fuck was that? Marco asked. Did you guys hear that? I heard it, but where is it coming from? Kenji asked. Then, out of the clearing of the forest, a woman walked towards them. She had a pleasant, smiling face, and she was wearing an orange hiking vest, green hiking pants, and carried 2 trekking poles. She was much older than the 4 of them, perhaps around 60, and looked to be Japanese. Hello there, she said pleasantly in perfect American English as she walked up to the group. Beautiful day, isn't it? The 4 of them stood like a wall, covering the grisly scene that they had uncovered. I've been walking all day by myself, so it's nice to see some other folks, she chuckled. Oh, Eigo o Hanasu? Do you speak English? Oh yeah, we do, Kenji chuckled nervously. I'm Ken, and this is Vivek, Marco, and Monica. They all smiled stiffly. It's nice to meet you all. My name is Hanako. At that moment, Kenji could feel a chill slowly creep up the length of his spine. Hanako was the name of his auntie who disappeared into the forest years ago, though there was little resemblance between this woman and her. "Is this your campsite?" Hanako asked. The four looked at each other awkwardly.
No, yeah.
Kenji and Marco said simultaneously, before looking at each other and rolling their eyes.
Is that your tent over there?
Hanako asked, walking closer. "Oh gosh, what is that smell?" Hanako looked at the cut-open tent and the decomposing corpse of the girl on the ground. "Yay, that doesn't look like a suicide to me," she laughed. "I assume you all found her like this?" The four chuckled uneasily. Hanako's nonchalance regarding the body was eerie and discomforting.
Why are you in the forest?
Monica asked. "Well, I live in the nearby town, and I've enjoyed hiking these trails for many years, ever since I moved here from the States. It's beautiful here," she said. "Not everyone comes here to kill themselves, but you certainly get used to seeing death when you're in these woods." Hanako looked down at the corpse again. She was with someone else. A man, she deduced. "I think I've seen him already." "You've seen him?" Monica exclaimed. "We need to call the authorities. He's dangerous. He strangled this poor girl." "Correction," Hanako said.
He was dangerous.
"You mean he's dead?" Kenji asked. "There was a young man hanging from a branch about half a mile that way. I passed him when I hiked by," Hanako said matter-of-factly. "You said that so calmly," Monica said incredulously. "I would be so distraught if I saw a body hanging." "I've been hiking this forest for decades now," Hanako explained. "It's something you get used to. It's been like this for as long as anyone around here can remember. When you find a body, you call the authorities and they come pick it up. That's all. It's so common that nobody thinks twice about it." "Can't say I've ever been to any place like this," Vivek said, kicking at the dirt. "Aokigahara is as unique a place as you'll ever find," Hanako said. "To be honest, you guys don't seem like the type to seek this place out. What are you doing here anyway?" We have a ghost hunting channel on YouTube," Kenji said bashfully. "We're trying to reach the Urui River." "Oh, that's interesting," Hanako exclaimed. "The Urui River? That's where a lot of people go to drown themselves. So you're here to see if you can capture proof of the paranormal?" "You got it, lady," Marco beamed. "You've certainly chosen a worthy place," Hanako chuckled. "This is the suicide capital of the world, you know." "But why here? If you want to kill yourself, why would you seek out this place?" Kenji asked. Hanako shrugged. "Maybe the beauty and serenity of it? How secluded it is? Or maybe there's something more sinister going on," she offered, with an incomprehensible smile. "Oh shit, this I want to hear," Marco said excitedly, getting comfortable by resting his weight against a tree. "Well, this is all just folklore, but legend has it that in ancient Japan, the emperors would conduct interrogations, torture, and executions in these woods, because it was so isolated that their screams could not be heard. Various groups were subjected to this, including enemies of the state and concubines who fell out of favor with the crown.
All of these tormented spirits became known as Yurei.
Demons with long black hair that cover their faces and walk the forest, luring visitors to their deaths out of vengeance against the living. "Look," Kenji whispered, raising up his arm and showing everyone the goosebumps on his forearm.
And yet, you're not afraid to hike this place by yourself?
Vivek asked. "No, I'm not superstitious like that," Hanako laughed. "Besides, if they were going to get me, they would have done so a long time ago." "I wish it was a matter of superstition," Monica lamented. "I think I've encountered one of these Yurei already." Hanako looked at Monica, almost as if studying her. "So her boyfriend strangled her and then killed himself?" Vivek interjected. That's what it looks like, Marco said. Murder-suicide. But why kill her? Monica asked, leaning down and touching the girl's leg, as if to glean any information that she possibly could from her corpse. Who knows? Hanako said. This forest makes people do things they don't necessarily want to do. Hey, listen, if you follow me, I could show you where her boyfriend is. It's just up the clearing there, not far from the river. Are you sure? The sun will be going down soon, Kenji said. Well, if you're headed towards the river, this will be on the way, Hanako reasoned. Now why he hung himself instead of drowning himself like most, we'll never know. But isn't it ironic that both he and his girlfriend died of a broken neck? Hanako let out a cackle that chilled the four friends to the bone. Though hesitantly, they followed her to the body and to the river. After hiking for about 20 minutes, they could hear the river roaring in the background. I hear it, Marco said excitedly. Man, that is loud. The currents are strong, Hanako said. Strong and unforgiving. Look over there, Vivek exclaimed. Through the fading light, the five of them could see the silhouette of a body hanging from one of the trees. They walked under him, and Kenji shined his camera light upwards, illuminating his face. His eyes were bulging out of his sockets, and his tongue was hanging out to the right side of his mouth. Now I know why they always put bags over people's heads before hanging them, Marco said. Shit is grotesque. This is fucking crazy, Vivek said, as they all pointed their cameras at the hanging corpse. There's a body hanging from a tree, and everyone's acting like this is normal. Why would he choose to hang himself so close to the river? Kenji asked. Some people think hanging is a quicker and cleaner death, Hanako explained. The authorities are coming to claim his body, but they probably won't be able to until the morning. It gets dark so quickly in the forest, Monica said, looking up at the foreboding canopy of thick trees. Speaking of which, I need to be off while there's still a sliver of daylight, Hanako laughed. Don't want to get caught at night in these woods. It's a totally different beast at night. The group of four thanked Hanako for her help and guidance, and decided to set up camp nearby at the mouth of the river as the sun went down. Did anyone else find her strange? Vivek asked, as they built a fire. Anyone who's out here by themselves has my respect, Kenji said, throwing a log on the fire. This place is fucking creepy. Especially at night. Wow. Yeah, the trees almost seem like they fold in on you, Monica added.
Like a giant Venus flytrap.
The four of them threw some sleeping bags on the ground, though they would not be sleeping much tonight, as they planned to start the investigation right after dinner, which consisted of some hot dogs and a few cans of beans. By the way, surprise, Marco said, beaming from ear to ear as he pulled out a bag of weed. This is for after the investigation. How the fuck did you get that past customs? Kenji asked incredulously. You know what? I don't want to know. I knew there was a reason we bring you on these investigations. Kenji laughed and pushed Marco playfully. Suddenly they heard footsteps and branches cracking around them. They all froze as Kenji put his finger up to his mouth to say, "Shh." Hello? He called out. Konnichiwa? Nothing but silence, but they could feel the temperature drop precipitously all around them, one of the telltale signs that spirits were nearby. Guys, get your gear ready, the investigation starts now, Kenji said, turning on his camera and EMF detector. Vivek pulled out his spirit box, turning it to full volume, as the crackling static popped like an old radio. Guys, it's probably just a deer or coyote, Marco said. Shh. Monica put her index finger up to her mouth. Who's there? Can you talk to us? Vivek spoke into the spirit box, hoping for an answer. Did you die here? Did you kill yourself? The four of them stood up onto their feet and leaned in, trying to decipher anything from the constant crackling static of the box. No answer. Can you talk to us? Vivek tried again. Can you understand me? Do you speak English? The four leaned in again, straining to hear something, anything.
Run,
a voice said softly through the static. Did you hear that? What did it say? Kenji asked. I think it said run. Ask it something else, Marco prodded. Vivek's teeth started chattering as he pulled out his thermometer. Guys, it just went from 65 degrees down to 45 degrees, he said, the vapor from his breath filling the air. Is everyone's camera on? This is it. I think we should spread out like we usually do so we get different footage, Kenji reasoned. I don't know, Ken. I have a bad feeling about this place, Marco said. Maybe we should stick together. We have to remember why we're here. We're trying to get the best content we can, Kenji reasoned. Tell you what, instead of an hour on our own, let's just do 20 minutes, and then we'll reconvene right here in this spot. Monica, you can come with me. Oh, sure. How convenient, Marco said sarcastically. Fine, let's just do it. When did you become such a pussy, dude? Vivek joked, nudging Marco across his shoulders. Whatever, man. Don't say I didn't warn you, he said. The four of them dispersed around the river, Monica staying as close to Kenji as she could. You okay, baby? Kenji asked.
Marco's right. I didn't want to say anything, but I also have a bad feeling about this investigation, Ken,
she said. Kenji stopped and grabbed her hand, holding it tightly. I promise I'll protect you, baby.
Let's just get what we need and get the fuck out of here,
he assured her. They could hear Marco and Vivek off the distance doing their investigation, which usually included provoking the spirits to get an on-camera paranormal reaction of some kind. Monica turned her spirit box on. Perhaps a softer approach could get more compelling evidence, she thought. Are there any spirits with us tonight? She asked softly. It's okay. We just want to talk to you. We want to hear your stories. Kenji turned on his audio recorder and held it high in the air, while the static of his spirit box pierced through the silence of the forest. Ken, I'm feeling something. It's like a deep sadness that's hovering over me, Monica said, her eyes tearing up in the darkness. Kenji pointed his infrared camera at her. Tell the camera what you're feeling, baby. Tell us what you're sensing, he encouraged her.
There's a young Japanese girl here with us. I feel her,
Monica said. Can we get her to say something on camera? Kenji asked. Monica wiped away her tears and spoke into the vast darkness. Did you die here? Monica asked. Did you die in the river? Kenji waited anxiously for a response in the spirit box. River, a disembodied voice said. Oh my god, Monica, Kenji exclaimed. Did you hear that? Monica nodded before addressing the spirit again. How old were you when you died? She asked. Again static in the spirit box before the voice answered, 19. Shit, Kenji exclaimed, double-checking to make sure his audio recorder was on. Why did you kill yourself? Monica asked. Static on the spirit box, but no answer.
Did you kill yourself?
Monica changed up her question. There was a pause before the voice clearly said, No. Who killed you? Monica asked. They strained to hear through the thick static of the spirit box.
Who hurt you?
Monica repeated. No answer. Suddenly Monica screamed. What is it? What happened? Kenji yelled, turning his camera towards Monica. Something pulled my hair, Monica shrieked. Tell me that was you, Ken. Me? No, Kenji said matter-of-factly. Did you pull my hair? Monica called out into the ether at the spirit. Was that you? No answer. Kenji sighed. Fuck, he lamented. Why won't it talk to us? The spirit box session had gone cold, with nothing but static coming through the box. I think we lost it, Monica said. It's okay. We're supposed to reconvene with everyone anyway, Kenji said, turning off the spirit box and camera. 19. Isn't that the same as your sister when she went missing? Monica asked. I don't think that was my sister, Monica. Kenji wouldn't indulge himself. They walked back to the clearing where they saw that Vivek was already there, waiting for them. Did you get anything? Kenji asked. Not much, to be honest. I even walked back to the dude hanging from the tree, Vivek said. I asked him why he killed his girlfriend. Nothing. What would possess him to do that? Monica wondered out loud. Why would they come here just for him to do that to her? It just doesn't make sense. Did you see Marco? Kenji asked Vivek. Where is he?
No, I thought he was with you guys,
Vivek said. Kenji looked at his watch. He's supposed to be here. Maybe he found something good, he said. Maybe we should go look for him, Monica suggested. The three of them turned on their flashlights and called out for Marco. Marco, stop fucking around, man. Where are you? Vivek called out as they moved deeper into the woods. This is really weird. Have you ever known Marco to just disappear? Kenji said.
Never,
Vivek responded. He's a clown, but he's usually never late for anything. Marco! They continued to call out as they walked the perimeter of the river. No cell service, Monica checked. Can't even call him. They walked around for what seemed like an hour, calling out Marco's name to no avail. The investigation had become secondary to finding their friend in the forest, which was unforgivingly dark and silent. There were no sounds of animals or insects, only the snapping of branches beneath their feet. The trees above them seemed to cave in and swallow them whole. As they shined their light upwards, they saw it. Look ahead! Kenji shrieked. Someone's hanging from that tree. Those look like Marco's shoes, Monica screamed. No way, he wouldn't, Vivek cried out. The three of them ran as fast as they could to the body and shined their light upwards before Monica let out a blood-curdling scream. No, no, no! She kept yelling, pulling on Marco's leg. Oh my fucking god! Kenji sobbed. We have to cut him down! Vivek reached into his bag and pulled out his camping knife, and then climbed the tree until he could get a good angle to start sawing at the rope. Where did the rope come from? Monica cried. I told him to bring some rope just in case we needed it, Kenji said, wiping tears from his eyes.
How could I have known?
Vivek cut through the rope and Marco's body hit the ground with a loud thud. Monica and Kenji kneeled over him and checked his pulse, but his neck was clearly broken. They pulled the noose off of him and just kneeled over him and cried. He didn't do this. Marco did not kill himself, Vivek said adamantly. There's no way in hell. Someone did this to him.
You know what? Let's get the fuck out of here,
Kenji said, as the three of them nodded in agreement. Fuck this investigation. Fuck this whole place. What do we do with Marco? Monica asked. Suddenly they heard what sounded like a cacophony of laughter coming from deep within the bowels of the forest. First faintly, then getting louder and closer to them until it seemed to surround them. They flashed their lights everywhere, but there was nothing. Run! A voice yelled, and the three of them took off. Stay together! Kenji yelled. They sprinted as fast as they could for about 90 seconds before collapsing onto the ground, panting for breath. Oh my god, Monica said, breathing heavily. She looked up and saw Vivek bent over out of breath as well, but Kenji was standing over her, completely calm and breathing normally. He had a blank look on his face.
Almost as if he was looking through her.
Hey baby, are you alright? She asked, slowly standing up. Kenji stood eerily still and stared at her, saying nothing. Ken, what's wrong? Why are you looking at me like that? You're scaring me, Monica said, shining her light on his face. Kenji started walking towards her as she slowly backed away from him. Ken! She screamed. What's wrong with you? He quickened his step, now with his arms up and his fingers extended as if reaching for her neck. Kenji forced her to the ground and mounted her as she screamed, and he wrapped his hands around her soft white neck, squeezing it as hard as he could until Monica was choking and turning white. She clawed desperately at his face, trying to get him to let go. "Ken!" Vivek screamed, running towards them. "What are you doing, man?" Vivek tackled Kenji to the ground as Monica rolled away, coughing and gasping for air.
Monica, run!
Vivek shouted as he and Kenji struggled in the dirt. Monica got to her feet and ran as far as she could, weeping uncontrollably as she tried to rationalize in her mind why her boyfriend had put his hands on her. He had never been physical with her before,
and was never abusive in any way.
He'd never even raised his voice to her before, but it really felt like this time he wanted to kill her. She could still hear the two of them struggling far off in the background. She wanted to call out to them, but she was too afraid. Suddenly she heard one of them wail in pain as if he had been stabbed. "Ah!" And then total, eerie silence. She opened her mouth to call out to them, but then she heard footsteps running towards her, pounding the dirt, getting louder as they got closer. She panicked, turned, and started sprinting as fast as she could until her foot got caught on one of the rocks, and she tumbled downward, hitting her head and knocking herself out cold.
When Monica woke up, it was daybreak, and the sun was coming up over Mount Fuji.
She was lying on her back with her arms resting across her abdomen, as if someone had placed them there. "You took quite a fall," a familiar voice said. Monica opened her eyes and saw Hanako, the woman who had been hiking the previous day, although instead of a hiking vest and trekking poles, she had on a long white gown, and her black hair was matted down below her chest. What are you doing here? I thought you went home," Monica said.
"This is my home,"
Hanako responded. "These woods have been my home for a long, long time." Monica tried to speak, but the pain was overwhelming from her badly bruised neck. "Don't worry, child. Your time is almost here. There will be no more pain, no more anxiety, only paradise," Hanako said with a discomforting smile. "Have you seen Kenji and Vivek?" Monica whispered.
"Oh yes, I have seen them," Hanako responded. "Where are they? I have to find them." Monica tried to get on her feet, but her legs were limp and she fell back down to the ground.
"You must relax, child. You will see them again. Very soon," Hanako smiled. Monica looked at her, and for the first time, she was beginning to understand. "It was you all this time, wasn't it?" she said. "It was you who I saw in the room. It was you who has cursed this forest. It's always been you. You killed that girl and hung her boyfriend. You killed Marco. It's always been you. You are the Yurei that the Japanese talk about." Hanako smiled and began to chuckle. Her face began to change, first to Marco, then Vivek, and finally to Kenji. She even sounded like Kenji when she spoke. "It's going to be okay, baby. Trust me," he said, taking her hand and pulling her to her feet. "Don't be scared. There's nothing to be afraid of."
Kenji took her by the hand and led her towards the river.
Tears streamed down Monica's face as she choked up. She knew Kenji was dead, but she felt an incredible amount of comfort in hearing his voice and feeling his hand. She followed him to the water, which was frigid, like small icicles stabbing at her feet, but she waded deeper until the water reached her waist.
"Kenji, no,"
she begged softly. He turned around and smiled at her sweetly. "Trust me," he said, gently pulling at her hand to follow him further. Monica nodded. She looked up at the sky as she put one foot in front of the other. The water was soon to her chest and then to her neck. She watched as Kenji disappeared into the blackness of the river, the water barely covering the top of his head, his hand still holding hers just as tightly as ever, urging her to continue. As the water reached her neck, she thought about her family, how she never had a chance to say goodbye. But she had come too far, and the urge to embrace the darkness became increasingly more overwhelming. She looked down and saw Kenji's hand underneath the water, interlocked with hers as firmly as ever, urging her to follow. Monica looked up at the sunrise coming through the clouds. She took one last deep breath and sank into the icy waters of the Urui River